Welcome, 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 everybody. We are so excited to be here with you for September's Soul Nectar Tribe Gathering. And today we are talking about this awesome book, Be Water, My Friend.
By Bruce Lee, and the wisdom distilled from Bruce Lee by his very own daughter, Shannon Lee.
Yeah, we are really, really excited to be here with all of you. And I'm going to... Hello! We see some beautiful faces out there. We love you guys. So happy to see you here with us today. And yeah, so welcome, welcome, welcome to Soul Nectar Tribe Gathering for September 2024. I am Kerri Hummingbird, medicine woman, mother, mentor, messenger, and host of the Soul Nectar Show.
And I am Akeem Sami, martial arts instructor, father, network engineer, and bodywork healing facilitator, and operator of Sami Wellness and Arts, and co-host.
Yes, and we are the founders of the Inner Medicine Training Community. So we offer you our services tonight. We love to keep reading books and educating ourselves, and we got some students here in the space. Shout out to Heidi and Marjorie. Woohoo!
Marjorie.
In the house. We got condors and we got owls in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Very exciting. So tonight we're really excited because we stumbled across this book, Be Water, My Friend, by Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, because man, I'm in a community where I'm, inner medicine community where we practice working with the elements. And I found out about this book, Be Water, My Friend, and thought, let's go see what Bruce Lee has to say about this. And considering that Akeem is a 6th-degree black belt and lifetime martial artist, I thought, this is going to work out.
Yeah.
This is really good. So we get to combine these two worlds. We're really excited about tonight. And we believe that working with the elements consciously offers us a way to move more gracefully through life challenges and through our conflicts.
Yeah. I have a strong alignment with Bruce Lee on martial arts being a philosophy of life. He was responsible for not only bringing Kung Fu, which really isn't a martial art, but it translates to skillful execution and dedication of work. So you could see that, when someone says, how good is your Kung Fu, it doesn't always mean martial arts. It could mean the way that you sweep the floors. It could be the way that you wrote that book. It could be the way that you spoke to that person or worked with that at-risk youth, or, it's so many different ways. It really just means skillful execution. And usually my observations and learnings is that it involves humbleness and it involves a beingness with this embodiment. So that's an aspect of Kung Fu there. But his daughter, Shannon Lee, distills her dad's knowledge, but adds her life experience take on it very well. She admits in the book that she was only 4 when her dad died, but his teachings were well preserved by his spouse, Linda Lee. She remarried Caldwell, but was well received by his daughter in her own life. For me, martial arts has been a lifelong endeavor for me, beginning when my dad began training me in the crib. How to do punches and kicks. He would sit there and practice. Here's my punches, here's my kicks, and he would begin teaching me that way. He himself was a light martial artist, but he wasn't fully embodied in it, but he carried and started the torch for me to start my own. Martial arts from the very beginning began to be, for me, a way that I worked through stress and helped to cope with life challenges through both movement and thought as a pathway to the wisdom for me. Strange to say that kicking and punching can teach you that, right? Well, through the conflict outside, it began to make sense. When I say outside as an outside of me, it began to make sense that it began to teach me really how to adapt to life's challenge. rather than endure the work of fighting in all directions. I tried that in my younger years. I was actually getting kicked out of daycares on the military base that we lived in San Antonio. Um, yeah. As I learned this lesson, I was be able to engage in these conflicts in which I was able to find a flow. This flow in Chinese martial arts follows an elemental view called the five elements cycle of creation. Come to find out, this was well connected to the cycles of nature, much like the I Ching, which is also called the Chinese Book of Changes. And as everyone that's here at this time, or most everyone is familiar with gene keys, well, that's the big piece of wisdom that the gene keys pulls from. It pulls from the Book of Changes, which is the I Ching, or some will label it the I Ching, but it's pronounced I Ching. It emphasized being observant at where you are in a cycle, then to adapt to the challenge by focusing on being in the strong end of the element. And an example for this is that the fire element itself would represent passion. Earth would represent fundamental focus. In this book, it talks about water being that element to focus on, which is primarily about adaptability and flow.
Yeah, powerful. I knew this was going to light you up. I knew that this was going to strike a chord. So I'm so glad. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And just a side note, before we dive into the book, later on in the gathering, we're going to share with you our upcoming live series, which is called Embodying the Elements, in which we will guide you in weekly shamanic experiences of the five elements. And you'll also receive the bands of protection and power, which are made of the five elements. They're like an energetic shield for your auric field. And they literally leverage the earth, the water, the fire, and the air, and the ether. So awesome. So we decided to gift you that and also build a 6-week course around it where we can be, as community, going deeper into our embodiments with the elements, which is our inner medicine students do this as part of the program, but we're breaking out this piece. So we're going to turn our attention back to the context where we're all gathering here tonight. And I want to just ask a few questions. So who is feeling the stress of conflict in the collective, just like a show of hands? Like, anybody feeling that stress of conflict in your life with other people? And who is like afraid of discussing politics with friends or family? Anybody? Like, I'm not broaching that subject. Yeah. Anybody feeling kind of out of sorts or confused about what's true the last few years? Like, really hard to figure out. Yeah, like what's true out there, right?
Especially right around COVID, it started being this big question of what's real and what's not.
What's real and what's not?
Really passionate responses either way.
And anybody wish that this whole thing was just over already? This whole political season, like, just be done? Like, let's just have it be done. Yeah.
I see that looks like Deidre has raised her hand there.
Yeah.
Have you raised hands to this question, or did you have raised your
I
hand
think
as a
she was
question?
raising her hand to say yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when we face conflict as humans, up until now, we often experience some aggressive assertion of opinions that tend to clash and lead to further separation. And through this process, I notice that people, including myself in the past, tend to entrench in our perspectives, often like we are in some kind of physical fight to win conflict. You know, I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but that's kind of like, you know, the environment. And so that's why this analogy of martial arts is really effective for this topic. And, you know, one of the best martial artists of our times is Bruce Lee. And so Bruce Lee is known to have said, quote, "It's not about strength or power. You got to be fluid. You have to be like water." Powerful statement. And also known for saying, "Be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you should find a way around or through it."
Yeah, I'd say in my experience that assertiveness presupposes that you have a plan to accomplish something with projection of how it's going to be or go all the way through the process. I heard it once said, the best laid plans, right? But really, how often do things go our way, like how we saw it happening, or say how we've planned a vacation trip just to have the conditions themselves change, thus changes the whole vacation itself, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're really stuck on something, if we're really fixed in position and we are insisting that things go the way we think they should go, then what happens is that we're kind of forcing our will. But what if we stopped doing that and we decided to become water? What would that even look like to approach our lives like water? And so another quote that really resonated for me was, quote, "Do not be tense, but ready, not thinking, but not dreaming, not being set, but flexible. It is being wholly and quietly alive, aware and alert, ready for whatever may come." And so it seems like the less fixed we are in our expectations and perspectives, the more agile we can be as we meet the context of the moment with our presence. And Shannon Lee has a really great quote in the book. It says, "As it turns out, martial arts is a perfect metaphor for life. There are a few disciplines where the stakes are so personal and so high as in a fight. Proficiency in martial arts is the practice of keeping centered and skillfully responsive under the direst of circumstances, the threat of physical harm. When you have mastery in combat, you not only meet a fight with composure and skill, you become an artist of movement, expressing yourself powerfully in the immediate, unfolding present with absolute freedom and certainty. And when your personal safety or life is on the line, to remain alert, mobile, and skillful is an immense feat of self-mastery."
Yep. Right. One of my favorite things Shannon says is no martial arts is necessary to distill this knowledge, as you're saying. I mean, it's applicable to any and everyone. But since I'm a martial artist, I'll share a memory of an actual match that I was participated in. My old grandmaster, Alvin Francis, was a fight promoter and held yearly matches alongside our black belt exam, which happened earlier in that morning. And then by that night, 7 p.m. would be the beginning of a fight card. And that day he asked me, "Hey, Akeem, one of the fighters backed out of the fight and would like you to be able to step in and take his place in a match." Being the young, affirmative, can-do attitude person that I have, and of course, trusting his, knowing my skill level, being able to handle it, I just said, yes, sir. I had just had my own challenge of being in a 5-hour-long black belt exam, getting my very first degree black belt. So I was tired, but I was 16 years old. I had energy for days. Later that night, imagine standing in a bouncy boxing-style ring for my first time ever, because we didn't train on boxing rings, we trained on linoleum floors, which later, by the way, messes with your feet. With my direct master, he was actually my fight coach, Master Bad News Brown. Yeah, that was his nickname. We all had nicknames. Mine was Taharka or Lion.
Bad News Brown.
And his was Bad News Brown. Yeah, he was.
That's a nice detail.
So that's something funny about him. But he's just a really awesome guy, and he was an excellent person to have in my corner. So he was looking right at the person, and here I am sitting here in this side of the ring, across this blue bouncy ring, looking right at the other guy, looking me dead in the eyes. And we both looked right at each other, took one close look, and we were matching each other. We were looking at, okay, what's in his skill? What is his capabilities? What's in his mentality? And can I take him? These are all things that kind of run through your mind when you're in a ring, But knowing on all of what he can do and what he's not, all I really knew is my own skills. but no knowledge of that skill would translate against how would it would translate against another black belt from another school, possibly a different fighting style altogether because we weren't in the same art. I had to embrace my adaptability, even though I could have been knocked out because that was allowed, kicked, punched, you know, I could have been knocked out. I had to have faith that I'll get through it intact. To what was needed here, I'll reference what Bruce Lee's teacher, the legendary Ip Man, said. Ip Man says, never assert yourself against nature. Swing with nature instead.
Yeah, speaking of swinging punches, there's a part in the book talks about when Bruce Lee first decided to be like water was when his master set him away for a week without training to think about the teachings because his master is just getting frustrated. Like, you're not listening. Your cup is way too full. So go off for a week, don't train, and just be, and let it sink in. This, of course, really frustrated Bruce Lee, who wanted to be training like every single day. And so he decided to take a boat out. And in a fit of anger, he started punching the water. Pretty quick, he realized, this is interesting. I'm punching the water, but it's not doing anything. And so he actually had an epiphany, and the epiphany was this, and this is a quote: had not this water just now illustrated to me the principle of Kung Fu? I struck it, but it did not suffer hurt. Again, I struck it with all my might, yet it was not wounded. I then tried to grasp a handful of it, but this proved impossible. This water, the softest substance in the world, which could be contained in the smallest jar, only seemed weak. But in reality, it could penetrate the hardest substances in the world. That was it. I wanted to be like the nature of water. And so when we are fluid, the punches don't land. When we are fixed and attached, they sure do.
Yeah, that's very true. So that even brings me thinking about Muhammad Ali. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the great Muhammad Ali. You know, he had this saying, especially when he beat Sonny Liston to become champion. He says, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. So if he floats like a butterfly, he was able to avoid a lot of the traffic, a lot of the hits. So Sonny Liston was bigger and heavier and burlier than he was, but he couldn't get his shots in edgewise. And the few that he did get, Ali knew how to handle it. He was able to sidestep some of the impact of the blow. So even though Sonny Liston was a knockout artist, I mean, he was an amazing, I mean, I'd watched a documentary on how amazing a fighter Sonny Liston was. He would knock people out. And he couldn't do that with this younger, thinner, mouthier, in his words, loudmouth, Muhammad Ali, you know. So it just goes to show you, if you're elusive and evasive, yet focused and capable and ready and looking for the opportunity, you can find the opportunity. You can move through it. So, you know, the other thing that I think is the soft yet strong conversation. That's so powerful. It's natural, yet directed, detached, yet powerful. And above all, as Shannon Lee says, essential to life. So beautifully true.
So true.
Yeah.
I also love this quote by Shannon Lee. She says, at its essence, water flows. It finds its way around or even through obstacles. My father would call this having no limitations. Water is present to its circumstances and surroundings, and therefore ready to move in any direction that allows its passage. That openness and pliability means it is in a constant state of readiness, but a natural readiness because it is simply being wholly itself. To be like water, then, is to realize your most whole, natural, and actualized self, where you are living as much as possible in the slipstream of life as you forge your own path forward. And she says, this is the way of water, to be unstoppable. So how can we be unstoppable like water?
Yeah. I mean, it just thinking about it, and you said this earlier, it can't be grabbed by hands, yet can destroy mountains. The mentality that it takes to see nature as your ally and to learn from it so that you can see how to benefit from it. There's so much.
So much.
It's small, but it's big because it asks you to be, and you mentioned this earlier, present, available. And if you're available and open, you're paying attention, you're feeling the nuances, you're feeling the details, you're feeling as the changes are happening, and you're not being moved by them. This is the part that kind of shows up in the politics when someone says something like, "Oh, I don't believe in that. That's crap. What's wrong with you? You're not distracted by someone giving you the you don't know what," and the extra context that is meant to be a debate tactic to take you off of your focus. But if you keep your focus, there's this stillness that you can hold even going into the conversation. And it's not an easy thing to come into.
It's really not, but we have some pointers, and these pointers are from chapter 1. So literally, you guys, like tonight we're talking about chapter 1. Like that's how amazing this book is. Literally chapter 1. So we're going to cover the main principles that Shannon lays out in chapter 1, Be Like Water. And the first principle is to be aware. And the key element here is awareness and full presence to the internal and external experiences. So aware of yourself, aware of the context, not making assumptions, practicing detachment, discernment, and staying present with curiosity. And she says, quote, "Imagine for a moment what it would be like if you had the capacity and the skill to choose your response to every situation in every moment rather than being overtaken by impulsive reaction."
Yeah.
Like that right there. If like a quarter of people would practice that, I think we would have way less drama going on right now. So it's powerful. And then the second thing she was asking, which I loved, I wanted to pull out, was what would it feel like to have the perfect response that reflected exactly who you are in every situation without taking it on and being personally affronted by it? Like that would be really powerful, right? And I love these insights for how to be like water that Shannon Lee offers. Great for anyone who struggles with trying to control things to produce perfect outcomes. Anybody here a perfectionist trying to control to produce perfect outcomes? Like anybody? Yeah. Yeah, Deirdre. So I love this because this is a great quote, and I've experienced something similar in my own life. But Shannon Lee says, "I gave the future of the project that she was working on to the universe, and I said, 'Show me the way.' And like water, I began to follow the course of this new unfolding rather than trying to build 1,000 dams to enforce the direction of the stream." Anybody else love that? Like trying to build 1,000, anybody else tried to build 1,000 dams? Like, it's like, no, I want it to go like this. Stop going like that. Yeah, I'm going like this. And then it won't go that way. And it's just like, stop it, water. So like getting aligned with water could be a really powerful thing.
Yeah. Well, another aspect, and I mentioned and hinted at this before, is the quality of water to be completely present with its circumstances. So this is kind of that same feeling. Ever had a bull in a china shop before? Just walks in and breaks everything.
Everything.
But that's also related to the bull being passionate, but not having direction, not being observant, not being present with what is, but where it wants to go, and is willing to knock anything else down until it gets to what it wants to get to, without seeing the repercussions that are caused in the process of getting to the end. I mean, there's so much to be said about that, right? There's many times in my experience in my life where I've had my own plans. I figured out that, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy my own house and I'll have my own car, and yeah, and I check, and I'm checking boxes, but I'm not present with what I did to get to those places. Once I got that, oh yeah, remember that person that you could have worked with and collaborated with, but no, I wanted my car. When I could have had the opportunity to collaborate with someone who could have gotten me in touch with the Olympics. I could have been an Olympian, but nope, I was checking boxes. I wasn't present with the opportunity that was presently available I was actually present with where I wanted to be in the future, which, where's that? That's the future. That was me being so directed. I took myself out of my power and put myself where I wanted to be in the future, saying that where I am is not where I want to be. I wasn't content with where I was. And as a result of not being content, I wasn't able to see all of what was available to me. So this is what it brings in.
Yeah, actually, I love that topic because later on in the book, she talks about the core steps, and we're not going to cover that tonight. But one of the steps was to set the intent, right? So yes, we set the goal, we set the dream, we set the intent, and we begin taking actions towards it, but not myopically, because setting the intention is not necessarily going to be the destination. It's only the direction of the energy that you feel in the moment to go, because maybe something else is going to open up, like a tributary is going to open up, that you're going to flow down that way instead. But if you get to that choice point and you're so myopically focused on building all those little dams to make sure this thing happens that you set out to do, then you're not really paying attention to the context. You're not aware of the opportunity that's right in front of you that might be better than what you dreamed into being. And so that's why we say, that or something even better, So here's my dream, this or even better, because there's something might come up along the way that's actually more aligned with what I say I want, how I want to feel, how I want to express myself. Another opportunity might come up that's even better, and so that's why not only to be aware, but the second principle that they cover in chapter 1 is be pliable, like be willing to change, be pliable. Water is very pliable. It's adaptive. It moves and flows. It's not stuck on being a certain shape. It can be any shape, and it's not attached. And there's a quote here that says, when man is living, this is from Bruce Lee, when man is living, he is soft and pliable. When he is dead, he becomes rigid. Pliability is life. Rigidity is death. Whether we are speaking of the body, the mind, or the spirit. So be pliable. And Shannon Lee says one of the simplest and most easily grasped lessons of water is pliability. Throw a rock in a stream and the stream adapts to make space for the rock. And so to be like water is to adapt in your response to your environment and your opponent. In other words, is to be pliable. And so many of us resist pliability because we want to be right. We have an addiction to being right, to having our perspective be the only correct perspective. But when you have 8 billion perspectives and everybody thinks their perspective is right, it creates a lot of conflict. And, so what if we would be able to be more adaptable and more open? And so, I think you have an experience that you want to share about that.
I do. It's actually my last big fight, because we're talking martial arts, right? So of course I can go into that. All of you are interested to hear it, hopefully. So I was 23 years old. This was another one of the year matches that my grandmaster was putting on as a promoter. And I was told in advance that, we have a little bit of context about the guy you're going to go up against. Just a little bit. He's an ex-Golden Gloves boxing champion. Okay. When I was like, okay, well, how do I adjust with that? Because I'll give you a little back history. Kickboxing was more so aligned with what I was using. Kickboxing is a mixture of punching, or a mixture of boxing and martial arts kicking. So it's a mixture of a couple of things. So being in this understanding that, okay, for one, I need to take myself to the next level, because this person was really, really good at boxing. Typically, the people really, really good at boxing were really good knockout artists against kickboxers. So I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm going to take this challenge. How do I take it to my next level? So I met the challenge with my willingness to be pliable and aware. And as you also hear stories about this, champions, including Mike Tyson, who didn't adapt to the challenge coming up, didn't take it seriously, didn't make the preparation, and they got knocked out. Supposedly unknockoutable, they got knocked out or knocked down or lost their fight. So I didn't want to be in that camp. So what I did was first start with visualizing, being in view of what I wanted to accomplish. That included my visualization of where I wanted to be, but willingness to know that I don't know everything about this person. He's just a Golden Gloves champion, which means there's certain strategies he's going to apply to get the win on me. That was all I knew. That was all I knew. From a fight perspective, it's not enough information. It's just enough to know, be ready. So I actually began visualizations. I began affirmations. And I actually had a sound CD that I listened to every night. Yeah, exactly, Tara. Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. Mike Tyson getting knocked out. That just couldn't happen. I mean, it's just, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so I actually had like a sound CD of me, a recording of me actually making a statement of not only what I wanted to get, but how I felt on the inside participating in this fight, what it felt like when I would throw my punches, what it felt like training for the fight. Because, the training, come to find out, usually is harder than the actual competition or fight that you're in. Because it's longer, it's going on for weeks, if not months. And you have to find something within you that keeps going and not feel like, I want to go have some Oreos and watch a few movies and have some pizza. You have to be visual, focused, pliable, aware, and put those other things that get in your way down. So you're seeing where within yourself, knowing myself, that I don't perform well with pizza and lots of Oreos in my system if I've got a fight coming up. So you put those things down, okay?
This is very hard for him, by the
Oh,
way.
I have a nickname, int'l, as in son, sweet tooth Sami. So
Yeah,
that's my nickname. I
his
like
nickname.
I like sweets, and I have to be careful with that. And I also have to be cognizant for the challenge. So here I am with this challenge. I started visualizations. I had a sound CD that I had on at night, every night going to sleep. I'd have it on repeat. It would just play all night long. I'd wake up and I'd start training. Meanwhile, I had jobs to do. I was a network analyst already. I was in teleservices, so I had other works to do. It wasn't all I ate, slept, and breathed. I had to be able to adapt my life to being prepared for the fight while still participating in my martial arts classes, while still putting food on the table for myself, and helping out with what I was creating at that time. I was newly in my own space. So there's a lot of pieces that were a puzzle. So now fast forward a little bit further, I would piece by piece strategize who I was going to work with. So my mind is thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to spar up against that person. That person is going to make me better. That person's going to push me in another way, which will help get me ready for a boxer. So I'm going to go spar boxers. Okay. I actually went to a boxing gym, and this is a complete different, this is a sea change in some ways from being in a martial arts gym with people from age 5 to 70 to everyone is in their 20s, and there's this go, go, go energy. Everyone's hot and sweaty. You can smell the mustiness in there. It's the things that really kind of get you going. It's like, yeah, and there's this rocky spirit energy that they keep in it, with a boxing coach that was constantly saying to us, let us feed on each other's fire. So I let myself feed the fire of my intent and my will, and I brought in those affirmations. I combined everything that I did into every part of the endeavor. Bruce Lee also teaches this as well, even in application of a fight. He tells you to put all of your resources and all of your movements and motions into supporting the one hand that's going to, or the foot that's going out to meet the person. So it taught full committal. Once you figure it out, you're listening, you're paying attention, and then you commit at just those right moments. And you make experiments to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So here I was in this point of several months of training for this. Here I was in the match now. Now here I am with my mindset, and the guy's 30 pounds heavier than I am, from a boxing perspective, this guy is 3 weight classes heavier than me. So I'm like, oh, well, this was a surprise. I spent all these weeks and months preparing for this guy, and nobody told me how much he weighed. I knew I weighed 155 pounds and he weighed 180 pounds. So I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's a light heavyweight. Okay, well, we're about the same height. We can make this work. So, okay, so let's practice. Let's play in this. Let's go into this a little deeper. I didn't let that push me out of my game. We locked eyes. We tried the intimidation stares and the focus. And the opportunity to give up usually is seen in the very beginning of these matches. Right in the very beginning, you look at two people looking at each other. The person who looks away first, the thought process is, oh, this person is not as strong mentally, which means I can beat him. But we didn't give each other that. We both did not back down. I didn't know him, but he heard some rumors about me. Meanwhile, he said, this guy, and this is going to be funny that I'm saying this. I think it's kind of strange, but humbly I'll say it. People would say things about me like, "Oh man, that guy's like a black Bruce Lee. Watch out for him. He's like Bruce Lee. Watch his kicks." I've heard someone say that in another competition. So I was like, okay, so he probably heard that same stuff that he was looking. So he knows an idea of how I fight, which means he's going to be looking at stuff in my movements so he could use his boxing techniques and amplify it. It's like, okay, well, now I know what he's going to try on me, I think. So let's see. So I got in the ring, and adaptability. First of all, I did not let him get a shot in. He would strike, I'd slip, back, move. And he thought he could get me, and he tried so hard to punch me. And then he said, you know what? I'm just going to throw some kicks, which was even worse because he's not a kicker. So I made him play my game by staying so far away from him, and he tried to match me. And so there were people in the background, because remember, you're in a boxing match and you hear the roar of the crowd, which I really loved back then. I loved the roar of the crowd. And you had people going for one side and going for the other, and some are just glad because they're in the middle of a fight and they're seeing all this. And then here you are with the guys on the ring side. And by the way, my dad happened to be in there too, along with my family of origin, the rest of my family of origin. They're cheering me on in the background too. So they're like, yeah, do that move. Yeah, do the kick again.
And his mom cheers really loud.
Oh yeah, sisters too. Sisters, both my sisters too, and one of my sisters is a black belt from the same pool with me. So that was happening. So here we go. We're in this match, and here I was not throwing a strike right at the guy first. I was just feeling him out, listening to his capabilities, seeing where he was, having an opportunity to lower his confidence. I had to have faith in my ability to not get hit by him. Even though he would cage out the ring, he would lock me in corners, and I had to slip out without getting a shot. And he did get me some good shots in. He got me across the jaw a few times, which, by the way, those could be knockout shots by the right boxer. So fortunately for me, I was able to juke it. I was able to move out of the way. I did take some damage, but I stayed confident. I stayed focused, and I depended on my training and faith. So there were people in the back saying, oh, this guy's running away. He's not a real fighter. He's running away. He's running away. What, man, this is terrible. This is bad. He's running. And then this is something funny that I've seen even boxers like Sugar Ray Leonard pull. They move away, and then by later on that round, I switched over into offense. And I swear I heard, and my dad even told me this after, because he was talking smack to the guys on the other side, that basically he was saying that hey, he wasn't running. He was playing a strategy the whole time. You know, he's got what you sent out. He can throw it back at you. And I would have to switch. I would have to switch between those moments of not go all the way in. I had to be pliable. I had to be ready. I had to see where his opportunities were and be where he wasn't, and be where I wanted to be to most get to my success. That was not an easy fight. That, come to find out, was my hardest fight. And I'd fought a few, but I won that fight that night because I had my head in the right place. I had my focus there, and I was like water.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard that story, you guys. That was amazing. Yeah, so it's like that kind of keeping flexible, keeping pliable, staying present, being aware, being in the moment, and not listening to the negativity, right? And the naysaying and all that kind of stuff, not letting it pull you out of your space, but like keeping that tension, right? And that's the next point is have appropriate tension. So we tend to think of the word tension, this is a quote, we tend to think of the word tension as a negative thing. Tension in our neck and shoulders, tension in our relationship. But actually, tension is a necessary component to aliveness. Like, just consider that for a moment. Tension is a necessary component to aliveness, being alive. And they go on to say that a good foundation means having a strong posture that is able to adapt and move in any direction. And actually, Bruce Lee was known for this. He was known for teaching the posture that would keep you in total readiness for no matter what was going to happen. And so the quote is, it means just the right balance of relaxation and tension such that responses can be immediate and efficient. And it means being able to move and reposition simply and with ease so you're never caught with your weight on your heels. A simple and effective organization of oneself mentally and physically. And this is a posture for engaged living.
Wow. Well said.
And so when the water is being held back by an obstruction, also, like when you think about this, water is powerful. So we're ready, right? We're ready to bust a move. And when the water is being held back by an obstruction of some kind, it's just calmly waiting. So you're just inside, just calmly waiting, just present, but ready to move. And then when the obstruction's removed, the water comes out rushing, right? It comes out rushing immediately, no hesitation, right there. And so that's what he practiced, was being able to be so aware, so resilient, so present, that he's aware of the opportunity, he's ready for it, he's quiet on the inside, he's prepared, and when the moment is right, he's going to leap into action. And that's how we can be as well in our lives.
Yeah. Well, and this is also similar to something I've spoken a little bit about too, which connects the dots of being in a constant state of readiness. But the next level of this is being ready, but this vigilance being something that taxes you if you're not able to be relaxed with this readiness. The vigilance is staying up until 4, 5, or 6 o'clock in the morning because I can't sleep because I'm thinking about what I'm going to do at 7. So there's an
Anybody
opportunity to, I know I do. I caught myself doing that last week. I was like, oh man, I lost a bunch of sleep because I
gotta be in the moment.
It's
time for sleep.
I got carried away, and I wasn't focused on keeping myself focused on what was more important, which was sleep. Sleep first. So so she also says that water is quite elusive, yet prepared. And just when there's an opening for it to flow through, it flows through without delay, like Kerri was saying. So to anchor that in even deeper, so not assertive, like we were saying about the bull in the china shop earlier, with the plans, but listening, in activation, ready to begin, and still being persistent.
Yeah, and being aware in the moment. Like, let's say you set your intention and you set the arrow to go a certain way, and now you're going to follow the water to see where does the water want to take you. It's like you communicated your desire. This is that co-creative aspect, right? It's like then we let it unfold, and it might take us all the way over here on the scenic route, to get to where we thought we would go, like this, just straight in. But that's not what we often get, is it? Like, we usually get the roundabout version.
You're talking about me,
over
aren't
here
you?
and over there and over the hills and everywhere and over here and there. And we get to explore, all the aspects before it finally manifests. And I'm a manifester, so I like the straight line.
Yeah.
So that often has been a point of my own relaxation with this water energy, is to okay, it is purposeful. So as long as I am being purposeful and I'm very clear with my purposefulness,
Yeah.
then I know I don't need to say the prayer 10,000 more times because I have done that. Like, did you hear me? Did you hear me, universe? Did you hear me? Because I'm pretty sure I said this. But I learned it's like the universe heard me the first time. And so the more times I repeat it, it's kind of like, it's like the kid in the back seat and the parents are like, this is getting more annoying. So we have to just trust that we've been heard, right? And so she says, actually, be purposeful. Yes, be purposeful. Like, we want to set intent. And the reason we want to take the journey is not necessarily because of the destination. It's because over the hills and around the bend and under here and over there, and we find out all this stuff about ourselves and we take the journey. And the setting the purpose is simply to allow us to take the journey. That's the whole point of it. If you set a goal or an objective, the whole point of that is to get you outside your box so that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone. And so you'll start, get out of your house and start meeting some new people and creating some new dreams and figure out about yourself. And so like it might take a while to get to your dream. But she said in the book, she said, my father would say that the most important work you have in life is to be yourself. Or as he called it, to self-actualize. To self-actualize is to raise your human vibration, reach for your greatest potential, and express it outwardly as you move through life at the highest level possible, whatever that might be. Where you choose to express it in your hobbies, in your work, in your relationships, is just the vehicle through which you shine your light. And so think about that. Think about how water is water. It doesn't try to be anything else. To be like water is to be engaged in the process of discovering and then embodying our most real and true selves. I love those words from the book.
Yeah. Well, and as life happens, though, it doesn't matter what's really thrown at you if you can be in that state. I mean, through this process, we're looking at just one element.
One element.
This is one element.
Water. We could go on like about a dozen more calls.
Well, you already
just about this book.
And this is just look. If you just lived your life with just one of these, and this is what Bruce Lee chose to do with his life.
Water.
He only had 32 years, mind me, but in his goals, he chose to be like water to attain two main goals. One, he wanted to make $15 million in 1973 year time. Come to find out, that's $70 million in modern day.
We wish he lived longer.
And his second thing was he wanted to propagate Chinese martial arts, labeled Kung Fu, throughout the United States. Because in the era that he was in, you'd only heard about judo, and starting from the 50s, you heard about judo. And then after that, you heard about different forms of karate, like Shotokan. And that I happen to be a black belt in one of those. It's a mixture of Shotokan. So those were the main things that people had to look at. And then Kung Fu came into the scene. And that's one of the two things that he wanted to do. And he passed away at a young 32, but everything that he did, because he was so focused and his documentation was so excellent and diligence, which we'll go into, in our laters to talk about how he got to that place to create so much, even in the wake of his own life.
Yeah, we're gonna have another month on this in Soul Nectar Tribe because this book is just so jam-packed. There's no way we could do it in 1 month. It's worthy of another month's exploration. So next month we're going to talk about the action steps, like how you actually, their process for creating that Bruce Lee had, because it's really powerful. We'll talk about that next month.
Yeah, well, and also with this just one element, I mean, if you just focused even just on water like he did, you'll already be in alignment with nature. Thus, you're going to be more supported in this process that we talked about that have been happening since. It's basically connecting yourself with the processes that's been happening since the very beginning of this planet.
That's powerful. And the last principle is be whole. Be whole. Like water is gentle yet powerful. This is a quote. Soft yet strong. Flowing yet deep. And so it is with life. Life can be joyful and sad, beautiful and ugly, exciting and terrifying. And yet these are the extremes of the whole experience. So if we resist one half of the experience, we may never reach the heights of its rewards or the contentment of its balance. It's really, really, really powerful to realize the shadows are just as important as the light, my dear light workers.
Well said.
The shadows bring us to depth. They bring us to wholeness in our hearts. You cannot experience true joy without deep sorrow. I promise you that.
Yeah.
This deep sorrow, it like carves out your heart. It carves this space in your heart. And then the seeds of joy can grow inside that really deep space that it creates. So it's a powerful experience to work with the elements, which leads us to, our invitation, because we like these conversations.
Yeah.
We also like shamanic journey. I don't know if you guys like shamanic journey.
Somatic body
But we
healing.
really like shamanic journey, and we really like conversation. We really love community, and we really love the elements. So we put it all together into a 6-week class. That's a live series with us.
Yep.
And that's interactive. So like this is, we're recording this for the podcast. So this is like less interactive, but the class is super interactive. So it's like all on Zoom, and we're all seeing like the Brady Bunch squares and everyone's saying hello. We're all a big family. And, the indigenous people say that the elements are our oldest ancestors on Mother Earth. The fire, the air, the water, the earth, the ether. And so those are the ones we're focusing on, because by embodying these elements, we step deeper into our personal power, as well as our relationship with the fundamental aspects of all of creation in the manifest world. So embodying the elements enhances our ability to live in harmony with all of our relations. And in this 6-week live series, we'll receive the elemental protection actually in our energy body with the bands of power and protection from the Moon Eye Key. So students of the inner medicine training, they receive this as part of level 1 training, but we're going to do that also as part of this 6-week series. We'll be gifting everybody the energetic embodiment of the bands of protection and power from the Moon Eye Key. And they're really cool. They're like a snakeskin suit of the elements. It's just kind of really cool how sleek it can be and close into your body, or like totally put out into a big sphere. So you could make it like a huge sphere with like a mirror on the outside, so everything that somebody tries to project at you is just like, hi, that's you. And it doesn't get in, which is nice, because it's not about you, it's about them. They're just seeing what they think they see. So we think this is awesome. I personally have enjoyed my bands of protection. And so we're going to give people that. And then we thought, well, if we're going to give people the bands of protection, like each week, let's go deeper into the elements. So we start with the earth element, because that's the bottom band. And we move up to the water, and then into the fire, and then into the air for our throat chakra, and then into the ether. So we're really excited about our ingenious creation. So we want to invite you guys to it, to enjoy that and to be part of it. And so we're going to start on September 25th. And I'm going to put a link in here so you guys can, and if you're watching this back on YouTube or, someplace else, I don't know where else you would be, but if you're watching this back, you can find it in the show notes. And we'll put it in the chat, and you guys can check it out and see if it fits for you, see if you like it, see if you're like, yeah, I kind of like this conversation. In the series, you'll have a lot more chance to share with your own voice. With this broadcast, we're doing something for the podcast as well as serving the community. So it's a little less interactive, but the live series are super interactive. You get to share. We love to hear your voice, and we love to share with you. And we also have a Telegram chat, so you'll get to share in the Telegram chat. So if that sounds interesting to you, there are actually links on the page that I just shared to offer reciprocity, and that's how you sign up for the class. And if you want to talk about it, well, you can talk to me and book a discovery call. So here's the link for the discovery call. Again, that will be in the show notes. And I just, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I would love to just see any comments in the chat, like, how is this for you tonight? Like, how?
Well, I also wanted to look to the one Benjamin earlier.
Yeah.
He said something interesting. He says, perhaps I'm being rigid in my thinking, but what does she have to say about ice? Isn't that water being rigid?
I agree.
Well, I'd say yeah, and I have a little bit more to offer
unless
there.
the sun comes out.
See, this is actually the diligence of water to continue moving, because when you even look at a stone, or water or anything, including water, those are not just dead objects, and they're not in a
They're
permanent
not
state
inanimate.
either.
I can tell you stones and crystals are not inanimate.
Oh yeah, we
They
go
are
into that with the
conscious and
healing
awake and alive,
programs.
and
Yeah.
we love them in inner medicine training.
Yeah, intermedicine and healer training. We go into the liveness.
We work with crystals
the
all
particles
the time.
and the frequencies, and so its frequencies changed with ice. And so venturing down that pathway in your question, Benjamin, thanks for bringing that up. And you're right that there is a rigidity there. And the deeper that anyone would look at water, even water frozen, it is still moving, just really slow, but it's still persistent. It's still focused. This is kind of like that same, you just brought something up that likens it to a feeling of encountering what we would call a setback.
Yes.
A setback, it's supposedly
the wall.
you supposedly can't get through that wall, but
No.
it's like saying to someone from Alcatraz, you can't get out of this prison, but they get out with a spoon. How do they do that? Just a little chip
Focus
here,
it,
little
because
chip
they
there,
become
little
like
chip
water and they
there.
find their way out.
Yeah,
I mean, water can find its way out of anywhere. So good luck. If you're water, you can find a way out.
persistence.
Persistence and also changeability, mutability, being willing to change, because that piece of ice, well, give it a little bit of fire next to it, it's going to melt.
Yep.
And then it's not going to be there anymore. And people are going to, where did it go? It escaped. It evaporated.
Does that mean it's dead?
Yeah.
No, it's
No.
transformed.
It transforms itself. It's not attached to its form. But we get really attached to our form, and not only our form, but like all of our ideas.
Wow.
So this is all part and parcel of what we love to teach, because we love the Toltec teachings. You guys, you've been with us before. We love the 4 agreements.
Yeah.
We love the 5 attachments. Like this plus water explains a lot, right? Like, don't be so attached. You can be fluid, and then life is easier. You're not going to hit, that punch isn't going to actually hit you, because you're not attached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I like what Tara said. She said, "Sweet Honey and the Rock" have a song about drops of water wearing away the rock.
That's right.
And I keep also hearing a likeness to this term. It might seem kind of religious, but they say, "Have the faith of a mustard seed, and it moves mountains." This sounds so much like that same energy of water. It's faithful, it's persistent, and it's consistent, and it's focused. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. Next thing you know, you've made a stream.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And so this is our opportunity.
And we're really excited
make
to
a
see what
stream.
this is our first time doing this class, so we're not really sure what's going to come up, but we're really excited to find out. And I do a lot of channeling, so messages are going to be coming in, and we're really excited about breaking it down into practices too. You just mentioned strategies. We're actually going to be in this series. We're going to have a part that is share time, so everybody gets to share at the beginning of the call and get to hear your experiments and how they worked out over the week, because we're going to give you practices and rituals to do when we're away from each other. And then you can come back and you can share them on our private Telegram chat, or you can come and share them in class and be live with us. And then, we'll all learn from each other's experiences, which I love too, because I love community. And then the last thing is that we'll give you guys some information from Akeem's martial arts training about the element, because he's got a lot of time working with these elements.
Well, and not just martial arts, but also my energy healing work.
Yeah, we both do shamanic healing.
Yeah, well, shamanic healing. I also am what they call a pranic healing practitioner, as well as a shamanic healing practitioner, and I'm a massage therapist. So that's also multifaceted. So this is going into the same conversation.
We're combining our gifts.
Wellness. This is going right into the wellness conversation. So I look forward to our next one. So we are going to be talking about this again. So
we're going to talk about this book again at the next Soul Nectar Tribe gathering, which we're going to set the date for, and it's going to be early October.
Yeah.
In the meantime, please don't delay. If you're interested in joining us in a small intimate group, and bring your friends and have weekly conversation with us. Yeah, join the program. It's going to be fun.
And in the same conversation, be ready for the introduction of the 6 poisons that Shannon Lee talks about on our call next month. Join us on our call next month.
Join us next month.
We'll go into
join us in the
series. 6 poisons and more.
Yeah, and book a discovery call if you want to talk with us about it. And I forgot to say, we're also going to do shamanic journey and healing each week too. So I wanted to throw that in there in the mix. We're making a despacho, like a soup. Like we're throwing it all in. We're throwing all of our prayers in. And we look forward to seeing you guys in all the ways I see you. I would love to just have one word out. How is today for you? How is this call for you? How do you feel right now? What's one thing you're taking away that's like feeling good? Just love to hear from you before we go. Anything you want to write for us or speak out loud?
This is Marjorie. When I think about water, and I think when it can be the tiniest of just a little bit of water, and it just drops on the floor, and it just goes everywhere. That little bit of water, and it always amazes me. I'm like, God, I'm looking over here. Oh, missed the spot.
Yeah, it's sneaky like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was just thinking about it the whole time that you were talking about it, and just applying it to, things that I've experienced, with water, but just was like, wow, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Marjorie.
Thanks, Marjorie. Good to hear from you.
Heidi, did you want to share?
I love water's transparency and its fluidity.
That's a good one to bring up. The
Yeah.
transparency.
Yeah.
Well, in my chart, and for anyone who's studied the healing program, I've got 59, which is transparency 3 times in my chart.
It's a lot of transparency, you guys. That my Scorpio moon doesn't really love that in my 12th house, but it's okay. I can keep a secret or two. So if you guys ever feel that for me, like I'm keeping a secret, I'm not. It's just my Scorpio moon makes you think I am. And Gina says she loves it, and Tara says very upbeat. Awesome. Yeah, so glad you guys joined us tonight. We're so grateful. And we hope to see you next time on Soul Nectar Tribe Gathering. It's going to be in October. We'll give you the date as soon as we have it. And we hope to see you in the Embodying the Elements class. And for all of you inner medicine students, we love you. And for all my former students, I love you. And I miss you. And I'm so glad I get to see you, especially Gina. So glad to see you, sweetie. And we miss you and we'll love you.
Yes.
We'll see you in all the ways we see you.
And a little saying that I like to say at the end of these discussions.
Okay.
Be there and be water.
Be there and be water. We love you guys. Have a beautiful night, everybody. Mwah. Bye.